Tell me what your life was like before you died.
Growing up, and up until the mid-90s, I had an incredible fear of dying that just wouldn't go away. I was raised Catholic, and very secretly, I started studying other stuff. I mean, all kinds of different religions. Yes. I couldn't find that comfort, even though in the Catholic faith, they believe in life after death, surely, but that wasn't enough to rest my fears. And so very secretly, I went on this journey of what's possible. The subtitle of my book, first of all, my book is called We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. I didn't believe in any of this. I was open, but I was raised in a family where you have to see it to believe it. Dad, an airline pilot, mom, travel agent. There was a local psychic medium in town who kept making false predictions. So somewhere in my young mind, that whole world of that kind of spirituality, I would say the woo-woo stuff, I didn't believe in any of that. So in the 90s, when this fear of dying hit me, and it hit me hard, I'd go to bed at night, panic. What would happen if this was my last night? Or I'd look up at the stars and start thinking about how endless the universe is, right? And it all came back as fear. So with that, I went on this journey. Well, after looking at the religions out there, I had met a friend, nice lady, but she talked about angels and spirit guides. And I thought, you're so nice. I just wish you wouldn't talk like that, right? That was me. But she would talk about angels, and she gave me a deck of angel cards, they were called. And I went off on one of my racetrack catering adventures, 8 or 9 days cooking in the heat. I was down in Sebring, Florida, and I had this deck of cards with me. Every day I'd pull a card just thinking any card would apply, right? But every day I picked out the exact same card after shuffling the deck, and the card was music. Listen to music. And typically I didn't listen to music when I was cooking. We were working so fast paced and I didn't want music to slow me down. But in this case, I did. Turned on the radio, put on a peppy station. What happened was I started knowing the songs before they came on the radio, before they were announced. It creeped me out because this would be a psychic ability. And certainly if psychic and medium abilities were real, I wouldn't have them, right? Because I didn't believe in any of this. So it kept happening. And I would have other synchronistic times. I'd know somebody's name before they introduced themselves, or the phone would ring. It'd be a telemarketer and I knew their name. Bottom line is I ended up taking a weekend course out in California on mediumship. The promise of the course was, if you attend, you are someone who can see the deceased people around others. I so wanted this to be true, but my skeptical mind said, it's impossible. There's only one way to know for sure, and that's to go. So I lied to everybody in my life, and I said I was just going to kind of a business meeting, and I went to this medium school. There were only about 15 people in the class. It lasted for the weekend. The instructor said, the first experience I guess I've had is she says, I want to tell everyone how a medium reading is done. She says, you just create the safe space, this bubble of light between you and another person, and invite in their loved ones. I closed my eyes, and around this lady, I just imagined this big, beautiful bubble of light. And very respectively, I said, if any of her loved ones want to come through with a message, I'm here. So with my eyes closed, I'm telling her a story. I see a man behind you. I'm feeling it's your grandfather on your mom's side. He's a fisherman in Denmark. His name is Jan. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. In my brain, I created him smoking a big cigarette and coughing. So I thought he died of lung cancer, and he had a big gap between his front teeth. And so I continued on. I said, I'm feeling like he wants you to give a message to your mom that he never said, I love you, and he's proud of her. That sort of message. But in life, he never said, I love you. So I opened my eyes just simply to say, okay, you're next. And the lady's crying. Her grandfather's name was Jan. He was a fisherman in Denmark, fit the entire description. And she was always told by her mom that her dad was rough and tough, never said, I love you. It was right on. And I was stunned. And then it was her turn to work with me, again, make believe. And she described my grandfather, the cane he used to walk with, his name, the German Shepherd dog that was always by his side. So it was that moment that I knew that there was something more. And that fear of death just started dissipating. Like, there's something here. There's something. This is real. Now, the bad news is every time I tried to be a medium, it seemed like it wouldn't work. When I was okay with being wrong and when I felt like I was creating and relaxed, that's the time I was right. So I left that weekend seminar excited and believing that there's something else. But still, I was afraid to tell anybody because we all like people to like us, right? And if somebody said, Sandra, who do you see around me? And I got it wrong, I'd be laughed at. So I didn't tell anybody. And I didn't actually open my mouth about it until I did some EVP work, electronic voice phenomena. And our imagination is everything. I've come to find out, because I've done some stuff, some wild stuff, and it all happens through our imagination. Being a human, there's two sides of us. We've got the analytical mind, that skeptical mind. And I don't know why we believe it so much, because if anybody's like me, we look in the mirror in the morning and getting old, too many pounds, gray hairs coming in. There's self-defeating words that come through, right? And meanwhile, we would never speak to a child or anyone else like we speak to ourselves. So we've got this other side of us, the daydreamy side, that loving side. That's the side that we use for this communication. So with the medium, psychic, all of that, we're divine souls having a human experience. This 26 plus years has told me we need to get it out of the way. We need to get that analytical mind out of the way. It's great to have it. It keeps us safe. But when we want to connect and when we want to create, it is that place of the imagination. It is that place in the present moment. After I went to the medium class, very secretly, I'm like, what else is there, right? So I've taken classes in remote viewing with Russell Targ, hypnosis. I've studied it all in the realm of life after death, yet still afraid to tell anybody. I went to Barnes & Noble bookstore at the time, and I said to the universe, if I'm meant to help people believe in the afterlife, I need some evidence. I need something else. And I see this bright orange book called The Idiot's Guide to Communicating with Spirits, written by Reverend Rita Berkowitz in Massachusetts. And Reverend Rita not only is a minister, but and a medium, she's an artist. So I was introduced to spirit art, where somebody not only is a medium, but they draw a picture of your loved one, right? I turned to the back of the book. Her church was 45 minutes away from where I lived. I went to a service. And then I went to another service, and then I went to another service. And in spiritualism, it's kind of like a Christian-based event, except for at the very end, the minister does readings on the congregation. And it's beautiful to watch. On this one particular day, though, she had a couple as a guest. They were talking about electronic voice phenomena, EVP. This is the first time I had ever heard about this. They both had deceased children from previous marriages. They said they left their house with a fan running and they put the digital tape recorder on a pillow. Just let it record for 20 minutes. They said, we're going to play for you what was on the recording when we came back in. It was sounds of little kids laughing, saying, Mommy, Daddy, don't be scared. We're still here with you. My brain had to figure this one out, because if now people can communicate this way, I need to know about it. This could be what I need to be able to share this with people. Several months later, it was actually a Halloween weekend back in 2005. I was burned out from cooking for the race teams, just overeating, stress eating, just having a real tough time. And I found out there's a place called the Omega Center in Rhinebeck, New York, that has wonderful retreats. You can take a class in art or whatever. So I said, I'd like to go there. There's nature walks, spa, vegetarian cooking. I thought that's a good place to go. During that weekend, we would do recordings and then try to listen to them. Well, Tom and Lisa were hearing lots of things on my recordings. I couldn't hear anything. They said it's like listening to a different language. You need to know the language before you can understand words. Our brains are trying to pick up the background noise as opposed to the subtle words within them. So they told me a lot of great things about my grandparents who were deceased. And I thought, that's really cool, but I need to hear this myself. So the very last night before class ended the following day, I went into my cabin alone. It was pouring rain outside. I held my digital tape recorder up and I imagined, again, the imagination, my aunt and uncle, grandmother and grandfather at the foot of my bed. And I very humbly asked if this is real and you guys are with me and I'm supposed to help people believe in the afterlife. I said, I need you to try to talk really loud and then I'll say goodnight. So I let this thing record for just 1 minute and I said, good night. I played it back and I didn't have a computer to put it in to loop the sounds over and over. But there it was in second number 46 on the recording. It said in a man's voice, good night, Sandra. And then, good night, good night, good night. That scared the heck out of me on one hand and excited me on the other hand, because suddenly you hear about the veil between this life and the other. It's like they can see me, but I can't see them. So I was excited, concerned, went to bed that night a little bit freaked out, brought my recording into class the next day. And the other people that were in class all had somebody very significant who died, whether it was a child or a spouse, and they could all hear my recording. And I could see on their faces the difference that it made for them. And it was that had me go out, not publicly, but I was no longer afraid. I did this with family members and friends, and I started attending afterlife conferences, and I would do recordings with people that I met there. And we'd go into one of our hotel rooms and we'd put the shower on for background sound because I figured it's the water that was the white noise that would work. In 2010, my dear dad, John Champlain, was diagnosed with cancer. 5 months later, he died. In those 5 months, my loving siblings and I turned into monsters, I would say. I didn't think I was a monster, but I'm sure I occurred that way to them. The arguments that happened over Dad's care and Dad's belongings, and I didn't recognize any of us. It was ugly, it was nasty, it was not predicted. I was the only single kid, everybody else was married. And so I was able to relocate to Florida, down by Dad's side, and then they moved him to Connecticut where they lived. And I was right there with Dad till the end. And I went through that grief, but the relationships with my siblings was lost. I'm usually upbeat and I'm always the glass half full kind of person. I was not me. I was somebody else. And for whatever reason, I decided to start studying grief. Why does it have to hurt so bad? Why do we go through this? I think the worst pain any human being will ever feel. I ended up uncovering a world of grief that I didn't know. There's stages of dying, also stages of grief. I found out that our biology changes when we grieve. We have these healthy neurotransmitters that run through our system. I always think of a car with all the different fluids that a car needs to run. And these neurotransmitters help us as human beings. And I found out that when we grieve, we lose quite a bit of these neurotransmitters, things like serotonin and dopamine, things like that. And they explain for the anger and the sadness and not being able to eat and not being able to sleep or vice versa. And I thought, oh, that's why I feel so bad. Your memory centers, how you perceive the world. And that's the aha moment, because I was fighting with my siblings about things that never even happened. And of course, after someone does, and we grieve for all kinds of reasons, not just over a death. And it started all making sense that we were working with unhealthy brains trying to communicate. When you think of somebody who's addicted to some kind of a drug, some kind of a substance, and then you take them off that substance, they go through a withdrawal. You would never trust them with your bank account information and other things that are so important. The grieving process is very similar. Our drug is love. Right around you, right now, and I mean right now, you have people, loved ones, your guides that want you to have the best life possible. Don't be so hard on yourself. You're at the perfect place, at the perfect time, the perfect age, perfect everything. Take some time and be quiet within your own mind. Trust that you're not alone, that your life matters, that you're one of a kind. You are perfect. And bottom line, there are people that need to hear your words. So give a compliment if you're with somebody, they need some help on something. You're wise, you're wiser than you know, and you're the right person for the job.